When we were young, we read more often because we had to. It was the only way for us to get knowledge and to be enlightened. Read to your heart's delight and be enlightened. Let's just read. It's a podcast by Andy's Personal Development. Stay tuned for more reading and enlightenment. Hi, and welcome to this version of Let's Just Read. We are live in the studios, and our guest is none other than P.D. Blackwell. This episode is entitled The Chronicles of P.D. Blackwell. And let me tell you a bit about this amazing author as we get prepared to welcome him into our studio. He is an accomplished author in the field of science fiction with years of experience crafting compelling stories that challenge the imagination. P.D. Blackwell is a name that is synonymous with excellence, and his fiction writing is characterized by a deep understanding of human nature and an ability to weave complex themes into captivating plots. In addition to that, he has worked with a lot of anticipation in terms of the Bible. Yes, and we're going to talk with him regarding his nonfiction work and his analysis of the Bible as well. So, without further ado, let's welcome our guest live on Let's Just Read, the man of the moment, P.D. Blackwell. Welcome.
Hi, Andy. Good to be here.
Hey, it's good to have you, and we are grateful and thankful for you taking the time to be with us on this podcast. So, P.D. Blackwell, I know there are many intriguing things about you that we can look at. But first of all, tell us a bit about yourself and maybe a little history of when you actually started becoming an author.
Well, that actually began in high school.
Yeah.
I had a science fiction class in high school, and I had been reading science fiction for years before that. But one day, a teacher called me back to his desk and asked me if I ever wanted to be a writer.
Yeah.
I had never thought of that before. So over the years, I attempted to be an author. I wrote a lot of short stories,
Right.
and but then I got involved with religion
Mm-hmm.
very, very deeply,
Yeah.
and all the science fiction was put into the background. I just hit my computer,
Yeah, you did.
and but after a while, after about almost 15 years or so, I decided to pick up the science fiction again and start writing.
Okay.
And one of the short stories I expanded into a novel, and that became Chaos Rising, the
Mm-hmm.
first volume in my series.
Yep.
And everything took off from there.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. P.D., what do you think was the driving force, the inspiration behind you choosing the genre of science fiction?
Well, science fiction allows you to create worlds that don't exist
Ah.
and to delve into themes and ideas that wouldn't happen in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And the story began very simply as a short story, but as it grew, I knew I had to create an entire environment, an entire world that doesn't exist now in order for the things to happen, so they could happen.
Right.
Yeah. So that led me to about 2 years of working on the first book. And it's a very complex story. It's kind of like a Game of Thrones in space. But it delves with ideas that I never saw talked about before the way I wanted to talk about them. So it begins 1,500 years from now in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a mining colony on an airless planet that is destroyed one day, completely wiped out, and a very few people survive that
Mm-hmm.
event. And the human universe is controlled by an organization called the Merchant Alliance of Great Clans.
Okay.
And the clans are united but loosely.
All right.
And when the mine is destroyed, the various clans start pointing fingers at other clans, blaming them for the event.
Yeah.
And that starts a revolution among the great clans. And one clan in particular, Clan Urstalius, is blamed for the attack. And they're not in a good position to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the clans decide that the Guild of Free Traders is responsible.
Okay.
So these are obvious reactions that would normally take place in any society where you have
Mm-hmm.
people that are your enemies, people that don't agree with you, and so you blame
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one thing they don't think of is an alien,
Ah.
because at this point in time, they've never met any alien species equal to or greater than themselves.
Right.
And this particular alien species is so different, we don't recognize them, and they don't recognize us. So I thought, what would happen if there was such an alien? What would cause us to recognize each other? What would
Mm.
have to happen?
Yeah.
And this mind destruction was actually caused by them,
Right.
but nobody knows it.
Yes.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
after the destruction, the survivors, some of the survivors, begin having the same dream of
Mm.
a woman trapped in a cave, screaming in agony.
Wow.
And that
Can
becomes,
I just stop you there for a minute?
sure,
I'm looking at this information here and I'm seeing only 22 miners survive.
yes,
And one of them is a young woman named Bev. Is it Coley or Coley?
Collie, Bev
Coley,
Collie, yes.
right, who witnesses the blazing destruction of two Polinda spaceships in orbit above her.
Uh-huh.
What I find really intriguing, and I want you to maintain the point that you was
Hmm.
speaking about before, is how did you come up with these names, PD? I mean, this is so original in terms of the information, the idea, the content, the value that you're bringing. But how did you get these names?
Well, I wanted names that were simple and that
Uh huh.
and would be easy to remember. So for a lot of them, I looked into a baby name book
Ah,
and pulled out
yeah,
names that way. And
yeah.
others, I use a lot of different cultures to create the societies in this novel.
Mm-hmm.
Each clan has its own unique culture, and
Right.
some of the names derive from that.
Okay.
And there is a group of people that aren't a member of a clan. They live on a planet that was inhabited 160 years prior to this, and they speak their own language, which I developed called Ekun. And
Wow.
so their names are a little different than normal everyday names that people would hear walking down the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's where the names come from.
Wow. It's an intriguing story and certainly one that we can look at and make some level of contrast between what is actually happening in real life here on Earth
Yes.
and that kind of imagination. But what would you want people to really grasp from this PD in terms of the overall message that the
Yeah.
book is
Well,
carrying?
yeah. The overall message is something that we can all relate to today.
Yeah.
That mankind has never existed without strife and war.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been problems in human society
Yeah.
as far back as you can go in history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reasons are very similar in every case. Ignorance and
Mm.
greed has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
So as this war develops among the clans due to those problems,
Mm-hmm.
this extra element of the aliens is just ignored because nobody can see it
Okay.
right away.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm trying to bring the idea that we should not just look at we expect things to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, if we look a little out of the box and look at little evidences that lead us down a different path, we can find a better solution to our problems.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
and no matter how difficult things get, that if we keep calm and look down for a solution that benefits everybody, we can eventually achieve it if we're consistent in our approach.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't let things pull us in different directions that muddles the reality that we're facing. You know?
Definitely. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, PD. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. And I love the overall message. What kind of response have you gotten thus far from the critics, the public, people who have actually read the publication?
yeah, it's been very positive.
Uh
I've
huh.
gotten all 5-star reviews on Reader's Favorite.
Right.
Online book club has been very positive as well.
Mm hmm.
Other authors have really enjoyed it. It's a very complex story. Like I
Right.
said, it's like a Game of Thrones in space.
Mm hmm.
The one thing they were really impressed about, and I was very glad to hear this, they felt I handled the characters very well. I was very
Yeah.
good at developing them,
Mm
but
hmm.
that the story didn't drag, that it moved very
Ah,
effectively at a good pace, and it kept
right.
them interested all throughout.
Right.
And that's the goal of every author, to write
Mm hmm.
something that people really, really like. And
Yeah.
so far, it's been pretty good.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you had the opportunity, PD, to do some book tours and actually sit down with people and relate to them from your perspective what you really wanted them to get out of the book and explain to them some of the characters and the reasoning behind the characters? And have you had the opportunity to do any sort of book tour and relate to the public with regards to the publication itself?
Not as yet. No, I haven't done that yet.
Okay. Okay, but there are plans for it, I hope.
In the future. Yeah.
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 Wonderful. uh is there any more in terms of sequels coming again with regards to this particular publication?
Yeah. Volume 2 is already out,
Uh-huh.
and it's called The Raisu Alternative, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes off where the first novel ended.
Yeah.
And I'm working on the third volume now, and it's as yet untitled.
Okay.
And I hope to have that done by the end of the year.
Wonderful. Great. So, in terms of mentoring, PD, are you mentoring any group of people or any particular individual with regards to your style of writing? Because you probably see something in them and you're saying, okay, I'm going to invest in these people or this individual so that there be some level of continuation based on the quality of the work that you've actually been doing.
No, I really haven't met anyone who wanted me to mentor them. It's that
Oh,
has to be
man.
a two-way street. The
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
wants it. I'm glad to
Yeah.
give people advice, and I've
Hmm.
given advice to many people, and I've taken advice from others myself.
Right. Right.
Being an author, you really need to be open to other ideas and
That's right.
criticism. And yeah. But I don't have anyone specific who's my secondhand person there that I'm helping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. So let's look at this from another perspective. I have seen people like George Lucas literally take Star Wars to all different levels. Do you see yourself probably in the future, somewhere down the road, doing a TV series or maybe a movie with regards to the publication?
Uh, that's not something I've really considered.
Ah,
I've had people ask me
mm-hmm,
about that, and I've kind of put that off because that's a completely different media.
mm-hmm.
And if I were to go down that road, I would need complete control over everything because I've seen too many great works in writing get on screen and they're horrible.
Wow.
Sometimes it works really well,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes most of the time it doesn't for the author.
Wow.
Because a movie or even a TV series, they have to they can't relate everything that takes place in a book. so they have to
Okay.
cut it up a little bit. Even
Yeah.
Dune, the movie
Hmm.
that just came
Yeah.
out, Dune
Yeah.
2,
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
to cut that up quite a bit in
Ah.
order for it to fit in that amount of time that it had to play. They did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a standalone movie, both of those movies are awesome,
Yeah.
but it's still not the book. You know.
Right. Yeah. I hear you, and I get that understanding. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to share with you, PD.
Hmm.
Uh, this is the cover of Chaos Rising, the Estalios Chronicles Volume 1. And what inspired you to create this cover? Did you have help from the publishers, or did you come up with this idea all by yourself? It's
Uh,
an amazing outcome.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I know. I did all the covers for my books.
Wow.
I've been a
Wow.
digital artist for a couple of decades, for a very long time. But the scene on that cover is of that
Hmm.
airless planet and the mine destruction,
Hmm.
and that blue stuff you see coming out of the planet. Those are the
Right.
aliens.
Ah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hey, I'm really intrigued by all this
Yeah.
stuff. Truly,
Uh,
truly, it
one
is wonderful.
yeah
Go
one
ahead.
thing one thing about a book that's really different from
Mm-hmm.
a movie,
Mm-hmm.
as you read the book, it's unique to everybody who reads it
Yes.
because they have to create in their mind the imagery that's in the words.
Right,
And
right, right.
so somebody can read a book and they can have somebody else read it and they talk about it, and they may get a completely different um, impression of the things that were happening because they're individuals, they're different. No
Yeah.
one's the same. And you also get drawn deeper into the story because you experience everything the protagonist experiences, everything the antagonist experiences, and all the other characters in between. You experience everything everybody runs into in that book. It's not like a movie that's just
Yeah.
playing in front of you and you're not
Mhm.
really involved with it the same way.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
reading is so much more. It's much better than watching a movie.
I get it because in essence, what you're saying is that people actually have to use their imaginations, and they have to think, and they
Yes.
have to run with the idea of what the author is saying, what he's projecting, what he's portraying, or she.
Hmm.
And in so doing, it creates a whole new level of challenge for them
It does.
rather than just seeing everything open out with
Right.
regards to the movie. So I,
Yeah.
I I understand that, and I really love the concept. It's
Yeah.
it's tremendous.
When I was in high school in that science
Uh-huh.
fiction class, we read a short story by Ray Bradbury
Mm-hmm.
called Fever Dream. And after we got done, the teacher would ask us about what we thought of it. And
Uh-huh.
the very last question was he called on a student and asked them what they thought about the ending.
Yeah.
And she thought it was great. She thought it was very happy and celebratory, and that was it for her. I was
Okay.
shocked. I was
Right.
shocked
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because it wasn't that at all. And Bradbury had
Uh,
laid out very specific clues along the way
okay.
to that specific ending, which was actually pretty horrible.
Yeah.
But she couldn't see it,
Hmm.
and the teacher failed her that day because he never asked her anything about her answer to help
Ah.
open her mind to a
Hmm.
reality that she couldn't see.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that told me right then and there that no matter how well crafted any novel is or any story, there will always be somebody who doesn't get it
Yes. That's
because
right.
they're reading it through their perspective, through their eyes,
Yeah. Yeah.
not the eyes of the author.
Wow.
So that told me no matter what I wrote, I would need to be as straightforward and specific as possible to not have that happen to anybody who read my work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's intriguing. Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, PD. I understand. I understand that very much. I do. I just want to read the last part of what I have here.
Okay.
And it's even more intriguing. And I want you to explain what this it says. Fueled by rumors of mysterious forces and telepathic dreams among survivors from the mine, he tracks down Bev Coley and discovers a terrible mystery and a threat more powerful than all the clans combined. What exactly did he discover?
Well, nobody is aware of the aliens at all.
Ah,
He's just heard rumors about these weird dreams that people are having.
uh huh.
And the idea is that, yeah, it might be aliens, but it could be another clan that nobody has discovered yet.
Mm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So he has to leave where he is and go to another place. And it just so happens that some of the survivors from the mine were taken to this other planet. And so he knows the authorities there, and he determines, because his clan is being accused of the destruction. So he
Yeah,
wants to find the real culprits.
yeah.
And he finds out some of the survivors are there, and he wants to find them to ask them about the dreams that they've been having. And that's how he meets Bev Colley. And
Wow.
through with her, they
Hmm.
discover the identity of the woman in the dream,
Okay.
and that leads them to discover eventually the aliens.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Intriguing.
yeah,
Makes me think that I need to go and read the whole thing now.
yeah.
Hey, PD, thank you for sharing. So we just have about 12 minutes, and I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
And I want to read something here that I found in your information.
Hmm.
And I want you to just do some color commentary on it. I find this really intriguing.
Okay.
The revelation which Habakkuk the prophet saw. O Yahweh, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not listen? How long will I cry out to you, violence, and you will not save? Why do you cause me to see evil while you look at trouble? Destruction and violence happen before me, contention and strife arise. Therefore the law is paralyzed, and justice does not go forth perpetually. For the wicked surround the righteous, therefore justice goes forth perverted. Then Yahweh answered me and said, write down this message, record it legibly on tablets, so the one who announces it may read it easily. For the message is a witness to what is decreed. It gives reliable testimony about how matters will turn out. Even if the message is not fulfilled right away, wait patiently, for it will certainly come to pass. It will not arrive late. Look, the one whose desires are not upright will faint from exhaustion, but the person of integrity will live because of his faithfulness.
Yes.
Tell us about that. It's so intriguing.
Yeah. It's a great section of scripture because no matter how problematic our situation may be,
Mm-hmm.
how distraught we may be,
Yeah.
we have to remember that God knows what's going on,
Yes.
and that it may not, that our salvation, whether spiritual or physical, may not come as we expect, but it will
Mm.
come in at the right time. And
Okay.
God can overturn all bad things, no matter if it takes place 20 years from now or 500 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
That we must wait on Him to solve the problem. He is allowing things to exist as they are right now to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
Adam rejected God's authority.
Yeah.
Satan called him a liar.
Mm-hmm.
So God, instead of just turning Satan and Adam to dust, said, "Well, you know what? I told Adam to multiply and fill the earth, so that has to happen.
Right.
So he may die, which he did, but his offspring will continue. But they didn't choose to disobey me. They were born into a lawless world. They had no choice. So I'm going to allow them to fulfill my words. They're going to multiply and fill the earth. I'm going to allow Satan to exist to prove his point to everybody in the universe. And if he fails, then I'll be justified."
Hmm.
And other places in Scripture, he says that I will sanctify my name, and they will have to know that I am Yahweh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and he also says, "Vengeance is mine; I will repay."
Recompense. Yeah.
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 So again, no matter how difficult it is, we have to realize that he understands our situation, and everything will turn out good in the end.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I find very intriguing that you had time to do so many things. No,
Yeah.
seriously. You studied theology
Hmm.
and chemistry. You, wow. This is truly amazing. German, Spanish,
Hmm.
ancient Greek,
Yeah,
Hebrews,
yeah,
physics, astronomy.
yeah,
And in the early years, you were focused on martial arts.
yes, yeah.
PD, how did you find time for all these studies, man? How did you
Well,
do it?
I'm 68 years old. That's one way I can
Okay.
do it. I've
Okay.
been around a long time.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I've always had an interest in a lot of things, and I've fortunately been able to live a very secure life and do
Hmm.
all these things. There was a time when I was studying heavily, I would be considered poor. I just made enough
Ah,
money to pay the rent.
right.
And, through the grace of God, I was able to survive pretty well.
Yeah.
But I've always looked at knowledge like it says in Proverbs, knowledge is like hidden treasure.
Hmm.
And we have to really dig for it in order to find it. But if we
Yeah.
do, we will find it because that's what God
Yeah.
promises,
Yeah.
right? So I've always had a lot of interests, and I guess I'm a bookworm in some way too.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna go for a quick commercial break,
Okay.
and we will be right back. So stand by.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take a moment to tell you all about this amazing podcast that I had the absolute privilege of being on recently. Oh my gosh. Andy Charles is such an easy person to talk to. It's such a wonderful podcast to listen to. I love these guys. I know that I'm not going to have nearly as many opportunities to speak to them as I wish I could, but the program, Breaking Out of Depression, is really doing exactly that for so many people. It's been a great thing to be a part of. It's wonderful to uh, see the progress of this show as it goes along. I'm just really blessed to have been a part of this.
Okay, so that was our friend Amanda Blackwood who appeared on our sister podcast, Breaking Out of Depression. And we just like to remind people it's every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. AST or EST time, where we deal with many different aspects of depression and mental illness. And we go all the way up to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But right now in the studios of Let's Just Read, it's PD Blackwell, and we're looking at the Chronicles of PD Blackwell. Tell us about the future, PD. What does it look like for you in terms of what you're looking to accomplish going ahead, going forward?
Well, the first thing is to finish the third volume
Right,
in the series,
right.
and I'm working on audiobooks of that as well. Um,
Ah,
we're hoping to make it more of a like a radio show, more than just a narration. But we'll see how that goes.
right, right. Wonderful. Is there any information that you'd like to share with the world in terms of what you see happening? I know you're quite philosophical, and there are people who would say, well, we shouldn't have to deal with wars and rumors of wars, and we shouldn't have to deal with hunger, and maybe there is something for cancer, but we're just playing games and people are making big bucks. If there's one thing, PD, that you think we should not have to deal with in the world, or two, what would you choose?
Oh wow, um, law, law, lawlessness.
Ah, yeah,
That's the source of all our problems.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
But what can we do? I mean, how can we address something like this? And basically, from what perspective? What are the instruments, the logistics that we can use to address lawlessness?
Um, that's a very good question, and the answer can be very simple, but most people won't really relate to it because they may see it as giving up. You
Mm,
know, I always try to look to God for advice and for
yeah,
guidance,
yeah,
and that doesn't mean you're to be ignorant of your own life and don't do anything unless he actually tells you to do something. But he gave us a mind and intelligence to choose the
Mm-hmm.
path we go down.
Yeah.
And if we choose the good path, our lives will be a lot better.
Right.
And if more people chose the good path, the world would be much better.
Yeah.
But because it's not, Jesus said to love your enemies and pray for those persecuting you. And if everybody had that attitude to do unto others as you want them to do to you, the world would be a lot better place. And we can create like miniature paradises in our neighborhoods, in our families, to make life much more livable. We have no control of the world in general and the
Yeah.
governments.
Yeah.
There's not very little we can do about that. But God says and Jesus says, don't worry about it. The daily anxiety, it's not going to do you any good, right? You can't
Mm-hmm.
change anything.
Yeah.
Do the best you can in your own life,
Yeah.
and you'll be a lot happier.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Hmm.
So these guys obviously have had some level of impact upon you, but I want to know really which one stands out, if any, in terms of the style and the impressions that you have about
Hmm.
the work that you do.
Hmm.
Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, or Ray Bradbury, or Arthur C. Clarke.
Of those you mentioned, I think Asimov.
Mm-hmm.
He was a true science fiction author. They all
Okay.
are, but
Yeah.
I like the way he dealt with his characters
Mm-hmm.
and the complexity he brought to his stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. From foundation to the last question.
Hmm.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah. The last question is a great short story.
Okay.
If you get a chance, you should read it.
Yeah, I'll probably look at that at some point in time in the
Yeah.
future. So we just have about 3 minutes to go, PD, and I would give you the opportunity now. Let me see if I can get the captions here. I have some information here, but probably you would have more with regards to how they can get the book and if they need to reach out to you, how they can make contact with you.
The simplest way is to go to my website,
Right,
pdblackwell.com.
right.
They can see the books. They can read about the books, read some reviews there, and they can contact me too. There's a contact page if they want to get in touch
Hmm.
with me. So, okay.
Yeah, okay. Do
And
you have?
I'm also on X,
Ah, okay,
which used to be
okay.
Twitter.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do much on Instagram. I put a few pictures up there, but I don't really do much on Instagram.
Hmm. Could they get your work on Amazon as well, PD?
Yes, they can. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Great. Wonderful.
And there are
That's
links. There are links at my website to Amazon.
all right. Do you have any offers with regards to your books?
Not at the moment. No.
None
No.
at the moment. Okay, great. Wonderful. Yeah. So we have basically come to the end of this intriguing episode with our guest, P.D. Blackwell, and we have listened attentively to his work that he's been doing. And this episode was entitled The Chronicles of P.D. Blackwell. Check out his website. You can also get his work on Amazon, and he is on X, so you can make contact with him, reach out to him, and get that information. From our side, we are saying so long until next time. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, together with my guest, PD Blackwell, saying so long. And we just want to remind you, find the opportunity and make time to read. Read, read, read. Let's get back to the place where basic foundation of knowledge becomes something that people actually seek and look for. All right? So that we can be enlightened and we can still have the opportunity to challenge our imagination. So until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, together with my guest, PD Blackwell, saying so long, Godspeed, Namaste, Shalom. Bye for now, folks.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome. Where is my outro?